Hello and welcome to the 100th episode of the Rubber Duck Dev Show. I'm Chris.
And I'm Creston.
And today we are going to look back at our past episodes. Creston did some number crunching and spreadsheeting and sorting and stuff, and we're going to look back at some of the topics that were the most popular and kind of talk through why we think that is and what that could mean. So, should be fun looking back over the past almost over 2 years now, right?
Almost 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
100 episodes, long damn time.
Well, no, it's got to be over 2. Yeah, just over 2. Because we did skip some stuff. So yeah.
Sure. All right. So before we get into that, though, we can review. How was your week?
I'm so busy. Mostly, I have hired some assistants. And whenever you bring someone on new, they spend more time than it's like I sought them out to bring relief to me being so busy or to focus time elsewhere. But of course, they're monopolizing most of my time now. I hope that gets normalized. But then the other issue that happens is that, okay, I have these additional assistants now. Well, now I have, now I can get this done and this done and this. So many other things to get done. So I'm doing more stuff, but yeah, my time is, it's not a good combination. I hope things will normalize after a while, but at the start, it's just like, oh boy.
Yeah, you have to put in all the front-loaded work of training the new people to get them.
Yeah, and just getting a
productive.
sense of, okay, what's the best thing to pass to them at what point, and yeah.
So
it's just a little.
It's all the ramping up fun. Yeah, I've got a coworker going through a bit of that at work right now. He just got two more people on his team, so he's like scrambling like a crazy person to get them ramped up. And the reason he got 2 more people assigned is because he was overloaded. He couldn't do it all, but now he's like, now he's got to do it and train the people.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to get a little bit better. I mean, what I hope will get better in general is the overall output of the company, from a quality standpoint or whatever. But my time has not been saved thus far. So that's well, eventually I hope that'll be resolved. But what about you?
I have had like 3 solid weeks of not one bloody thing going right at work. It's like I can't put a check mark on the board. There's no W's. I'm just like, holy crap, I can't. It's just, and it's not like I don't like my job or I'm unhappy or anything like that. It's just you go through those spurts where it's just like, it seems like everything you touch is just turns to poop and you're like, I don't know what to do. So I decided Monday.
Or the situation where you do all this work, nothing can get deployed. So it's like nothing's been deployed for like
right. Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever. It's like,
yeah.
It was like me and the Zoom integration. I was like working on this thing for so many days, not consecutive because I do a ton of other stuff too, but it was like, when is this going to be over? I wanted to deploy.
Yeah, and it gets so demoralizing and frustrating, and then you don't sleep at night because you're thinking about all these things and how you're going to fix them. And then so I was like, all right, I'm like, Monday, I'm just taking a day off and I am completely unplugging from everything. There's going to be no Slack. There's going to be no Twitter. There's going to be no computers at all. It's just me and family all day. I'm turning my phone off. I've got nothing going on Monday because I'm still on call through the weekend. So I can't take the weekend. So I was like, damn it, I'm taking Monday.
All right.
Anyway, so it'll get better. It always does. All right. So 2 years of us doing this stuff, 100 episodes. and you sent all the fun number crunchies. And two things I noticed right off that were kind of odd to me, but I'm not sure how to make sense of this, is that of our top 4 watched episodes, most popular episodes, the top 2 were by quite a bit. The top 2 had to do with IDE and how to pick an IDE and setting up environments and stuff like that. And the next 2 had to do with performance optimizations.
Yep.
So that the performance stuff I can see, because I know that's, everybody's looking to make better performance and stuff. But I was really surprised to see the IDE shows, the things your editor should have, and that Ruby IDE showdown that we had, where we had several people talking about, kind of representing the different IDEs that support Ruby. That I would never have expected those to, and they are quite a bit above the other views. So why do you think those were so popular? Why are they sitting at the top?
So I think so the one title, things your editor should have, that was with Amir
Mm-hmm.
Rajan, I believe, or
Yep.
Rajan. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure how to pronounce his last name, but anyway, I think he has a not insignificant community. So I think they came over and watched the video. So I think that was a contributing factor. The other thing with regard to IDEs in general, when you look into marketing and what types of posts do very well, it's your tools. What tools do you like? For example, if you have a YouTube show, the thing that usually gets a lot of views is, hey, what camera to use? What mic to use? People always want to know the
Mm.
tools that are used. So I think, but for a programmer, what's your number one tool? It's your IDE. So I think this is my sense. That's probably why those are such highly rated. And because everyone probably has a thinking suspicion, whatever I'm using is there's maybe there's something better. I don't want to be left behind, or, you
Wow.
know, it's like me, I'm still rocking the Sublime and hardly no one uses that. And so of course I myself had that feeling. I was like, I don't I'm probably not using what everyone else is, which is true based on the show. And talking to people, like when I was doing the live streaming a little bit. But I think it's just my opinion with that is that it's just the tool use.
Mm. Yeah, and
Do you have thoughts on it as to
I,
why?
I mean, once I saw this, as I was thinking through it, I'm not entirely sure I know what to make of it, but I think you're right. Because I know personally, I'm always looking for tools that will help me be better at my job, be more efficient, automate more stuff so I don't have to do the menial crap. All those kinds of things. I'm constantly looking at that stuff. And so, um, I mean, I guess it makes sense just from a standpoint of what I do. And I've been doing it a long time, so that's always been a thing for me. I thought maybe I was just weird, but apparently not. Apparently that's quite a
Yeah, no.
popular topic, which is, I think it's timely to find that out, because in the next couple of weeks we're inviting Drew Bragg back onto the show to do an episode about the tools we use as programmers that are outside of like the language, like the other environmental tools we use, the hardware and the software and stuff, that's kind of outside the IDE.
And that's why I recommended
So there you go.
it.
So I guess
That was
that
an
that
episode
was
I suggested because,
yeah,
hey, maybe this should get some views.
right. So I'm kind of
I
excited.
think
I
that
mean, I was excited about that anyway because I'm interested in that stuff. But
I think that also, like, again, Amir had a community, and then for the whole panel that we had for the IDE showdown, there were essentially 3 new people, I think, that were bringing their communities as well, or what whatever audiences they have. So I think that also kind of helped the views too.
Yeah, true. Um, and then, although I will say it couldn't all be attributed to that, because there were some other things that we had with Dragon Ruby and Amir on and stuff that didn't perform quite as well. So I think the combination of the
Agreed. So
topic
that's a counter. Yeah.
and that stuff is kind of built up.
Yeah, that's a
Um,
counterpoint against that. Or
yeah,
it proves that, the helps reinforce the tool use phenomenon.
right. So it's not just I mean I'm sure he's really fun to talk to. I enjoy talking to him, and he's charismatic to have on the show too, so that doesn't hurt. Um, but yeah, it was just kind of surprised me. And actually, the next three after that had to do with performance things. It was the
Yep.
scaling all the things episode, the performance series databases, and fast text searching in Postgres, which I can't say I'm surprised by, because optimization is a big topic, and there's so many things on it that it's hard to figure out what's good advice and what's not good advice. So I think people end up talking a lot about it.
I think, well, also, I mean, sorry, but I'll have to say community again, because scaling Postgres, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times I post the Rubber Duck Dev Show on scaling Postgres. So if they saw these episodes, there was probably some crossover from my scaling Postgres to say, oh, he's talking about this. Let's see what this is about. So
Yep.
there may be some carryover from scaling Postgres with regard to those.
So I think the common theme I'm seeing is, if we want to grow this channel, we we need to use other people's popularity to do it. So,
Exactly.
yeah, which is, I mean, that's just a common thing in growing, well, any kind of marketing, really. Riding
Yeah.
coattails is
Yeah.
not a uncommon thing. Um, so after that, after the the IDE stuff and then performance stuff, um, the future of Dragon Ruby was the next one after that. So the Dragon Ruby stuff seems to have performed reasonably well. Again, I think that's because Amir is there, and I've also plugged into that community, so I'm on their Discord all the time, and I did the streaming,
Yeah.
and I got to know a lot of those folks and stuff. So I think a lot of that had to do with just the networking and getting to know people. Um, and then one of our more popular shows was, I think, the first dual set of guests we had on. This was early when
Yep.
we were doing guests. And
Yep.
that was when we had Andrew
We didn't even
Mason.
we didn't have a name for the episode. We just said, hey, these two guys are going to be here with us.
Right. Yeah. We didn't really have a topic. It was just talking to these two
Exactly.
dudes. Andrew Mason and Colin Gilbert. And it was, I remember that being a really fun episode. We talked about a lot of different stuff, because there was no topic set. It was just talking about dev. So it was just kind of like, it really was the sitting in a coffee shop talking about dev stuff with other devs, which was really fun. So what other highlights do you think come out of this list, looking at this?
So I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point, but I was intrigued the fact that the podcast. So actually, in the spreadsheet I sent you, I wasn't clear. I probably wasn't clear on it, but the bottom portion was the podcast listens, and at the top
Mm-hmm.
was the YouTube show. So the podcast listening was slightly different. So we could talk about that. Or the other thing I found interesting is not just looking at a total views perspective, but I also found it interesting looking at it from the ratio of likes to views,
Mm-hmm.
because you noted that you had looked at some of the videos. I'm not sure which ones they were exactly, but YouTube decided to try to spread it a bit more, and some people that weren't typical in our audience. I mean, we maybe got some views attributed to them, but they didn't stay around a while, or
Right.
it wasn't what they were expecting apparently, and they left.
Yeah.
But having a high ratio of views to views or listens, I think is indicative of, okay, they really liked whatever this content was.
Right. So like one of the highest ones is the fast text searching in Postgres. They got a lot of likes. Um,
Yeah.
and which, I mean, again, you know, the performance stuff seemed to be well liked, as well as the IDE stuff. Those have the fairly high like ratios. Um,
Well, the
it's
IDEs actually doesn't have it. They're relatively low. They're the lowest in the like
well,
ratios.
yeah, the ratios. They have the highest number of actual likes.
Correct. Correct. Sorry.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but the ratios are low because they got so many views.
Right. So it. Yeah.
So and the Dragon Ruby one, Future of Dragon Ruby, got one of the higher like ratios, which again
Yep.
I probably attribute to just the community knowing, being plugged in so well with us.
Yeah, and also the Halloween party was up there too for the
Yeah,
ratio.
yep, yeah.
So
We
that
may have
was
to
where
do
we
that
had that
again.
whole big we had that whole big panel on talking about dev horror stories.
Right. Yeah, that was a lot of fun too. Good times. All right, so let's talk about the podcast listens, because as you said, you did a view of that, and the the split between YouTube views and podcast listens is, I would say, statistically similar. The total numbers. I mean, podcast listens is a little less, but that doesn't really surprise me, because most of my reach out has been, hey, go to YouTube, not hey, listen to the podcast. So, um,
Well, actually, what I found is interesting is that the I think the things so the outliers in terms of YouTube were the things your editor should have in the Ruby IDE showdown. Those have
mhm.
by far the greatest, those that are number 1 and 2, as far as the most number of views. If you look at the rest and compare it to I bet the average of the podcast and the average of the views of YouTube are similar if you take out those outliers.
Yeah, probably.
So
Yes.
I found that very interesting that it was that balanced. And the other thing that I didn't mention here is that, or I didn't incorporate, is Twitch. So I know that is a component of viewership as well, but I didn't incorporate them into this.
Yeah, it is. Though I will say that because I went and looked at the VODs for Twitch, and the live viewership was higher. Live concurrent viewers was always higher on Twitch than YouTube, but the overall viewership wasn't statistically significant in YouTube. There wasn't a lot of watching of VODs after the fact. It was just the live folks on the Twitch side,
Okay.
which again doesn't really surprise me, because that's what Twitch is for, really. They don't push the VOD stuff.
Yeah, I just did a quick calculation. So looking at the top 10 podcasts and looking at I looked at the top 8. So again, it's not apples to apples, but I looked at the top 8 to ignore the outliers of those top 2 videos.
Yeah.
And actually the views is slightly less on average than the podcasts.
Interesting. So one thing I will say about the podcast list that makes me really happy is the most listened to
Yeah, I know.
episode on the podcasts is the top down or bottom up testing episode. So yay. That's because anybody who's been listening to us for any length of time knows that I'm a big proponent of testing. I love the testing. So I was happy to see that it's not just me being a test nerd.
Yeah, at least one of those episodes got up there.
Yeah.
Because I think we've done at least one other test. I think our first episode or something was like it's all about the test. First or second episode, it was all about
Yeah.
the tests.
Yeah.
Have we done any others testing dedicated?
I don't think so. I think it was, as I recall, it was just those two. I would like to probably do some more, because I hadn't really thought about it, but now that I'm thinking about it, that's my big thing. I really think
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
like to do some more on the
You
testing.
love talking about it.
Oh God, yeah. Those are when we do our 2 or 3 hour episodes, because I won't shut up. Um, but yeah, and then the number two listened to on the podcast was the things your editor should have. So that lends some more credence to that people are really interested in the tools that other developers use, which is cool. So I think too we should um let us know in the comments what you think and what kind of topics you would like to see. But I'm thinking more tools topics and um what kind of tools do we use for specific things. So if you've got specific ideas for tools that you would like us to talk about, um, whether it be tools for programming, tools for testing, tools for making ourselves more comfortable in our chairs, you know, or tools for streaming if you're interested in that, whatever, or tools for collaboration, that kind of stuff. Um, Let us know what you're interested in hearing, because apparently you guys want to hear about tools. So we're happy to oblige. Um, and then as far as other episodes, if there are specific performance things that you're curious about, let us know in the comments. And
Now, what I do find interesting, sorry to interrupt, but
it's okay.
looking at look at the podcast views, all these performance things, they don't show up anywhere in the top podcasts.
Yeah, that's weird. Huh. I wonder if that's I wonder if that says anything about the audience difference between who's watching the YouTube videos and who's listening to the podcast. Why are they there? Um, I, if you guys have any thoughts on that, let us know in the comments, because I'm kind of interested. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, actually. I'm more of a YouTube video watcher if I want to learn something or hear something or things like that. So I'm interested to know, like, why do you listen to podcasts versus why do you watch YouTube? If you're somebody that does both, what kind of topics are you more interested in listening to on the car? Like, I'm assuming a lot of times it's I'm driving to work, so I pop on a podcast, or I'm on my exercise bike, so I just throw on a podcast that I can listen to, things like that, as opposed to maybe I'm on the bus, so I'm watching a YouTube video on my phone because I can see things. But what kind of topics kind of have that dividing line for you if you're somebody who does both? And what?
I know for me that it's it's when I'm in the car. So when I'm traveling different places
Yeah,
and I don't have kids or others in the car, I put on podcasts. So, it's not something I can't watch YouTube while I'm driving.
right.
So I
Well,
have
I mean, you
podcasts, which I
can,
listen to.
but
Well, you can, one should not.
correct.
Um, and it's just convenient because the episodes are there and they're teed up. Whereas trying to like it would be impossible to try and create a YouTube list or like I subscribe to a YouTube channel, and then I hear about people getting unsubscribed or whatever. It's like YouTube does its own crazy thing. Whereas a podcast, I know I subscribe to it. I happen to use an iPhone, so go to Apple Podcasts. I can subscribe to it. I know I'm going to get the next episode. And yeah, so that's my flow for doing it. But if I'm sitting around, the the only like social media I do is YouTube. So I'm like watching a lot of YouTube and stuff. But I've heard of other people that are exercising or they're washing dishes or they're doing something else around the house. So they're actively doing stuff. So they're not like watching anything.
Mm-hmm.
Then they may put on podcasts and do like that. So that's my experience and what I've heard from other people. So now why I think maybe the performance stuff didn't come up is that if some of these database performance related stuff, if they're coming from scaling Postgres, maybe it's when I put it on my show, they're already watching YouTube, so they can click to it and then watch that right after. Whereas if they're subscribed to the Scaling Postgres podcast, they're probably not going to go check it out, I would think. I think listeners of
Could be.
podcasts are less likely to look at a link, or it would take more effort, because I imagine I'm driving. Hey, here's a link to something, and it's like, okay, whatever. Next podcast, just listen to the next episode or whatever. Whereas, yeah, so they're not going to literally go and say, it's more of a barrier to
Mm-hmm.
go and find the podcast and subscribe to it. Like if I'm driving, I'm going to say, oh, I heard about this great podcast. Let me pull over and subscribe to it while I'm here. Whereas if I'm watching an episode on YouTube, it's much easier, like, oh, click it, and now I'm going to watch what they say about this.
Right.
So I think the barrier difference is probably why the YouTube, I think, because I mentioned it on Scaling Postgres, I think that probably attributes to why the YouTube views of the performance are higher.
Yeah, I'd also be interested to know, and I'm wondering with you too, but from the audience, what kind of topics do you like to listen to, and how much brain power can you devote to concentrating on those topics? Or is it more like it's kind of background chatter that you can kind of pay attention to while you're doing something to focus? So I wonder, like from the audience, I'd be interested to know, um, what kind of topics would you rather hear as a podcast, and what kind of topics would you rather watch on YouTube? Obviously, if there's lots of visual aids, you're going to want to watch that on YouTube. But is it, with the podcast, are you really trying to learn a specific thing and really concentrate? Or is it more that you're just trying to kind of hang out and listen to folks talk about topics, and, it's more like sitting in the coffee house listening to people talk and enjoying the conversation? Because like I said, I'm not a big podcast person, so I don't really have an opinion there, because I don't do it. When I'm walking or exercising or on my bike or something, I'm actually listening to Audible, because I like to just completely escape from
Now, is
my...
Audible, are you listening to books, or is
Yeah,
it music? You're listening to
books.
books. Okay.
Books,
Okay.
yeah. And it's not anything that has to do with development.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
fiction books, so I can completely escape from that part of my life for a little while. So I just don't do a lot of podcast listening. So I'm curious to understand why, and I know they're really popular, and I'm kind of the odd man out there, but I'm curious to understand.
If you had an hour plus commute, you'd probably
Well, yeah, true.
might get accustomed to try checking them out. But anyway,
Yeah, this is true. I mean, since my commute is walking from my bedroom to my office, down a flight of stairs, that's...
yeah. Or at one point, if you had done that, significantly, you might have.
Which
Yeah.
I did, but again, it was always either music or audiobooks. I, I
Okay.
was I was just never into podcasts. Maybe because when I'm not working, I kind of like to do something different with my brain. Um, so I don't know, but that's me. But I am genuinely curious as to what people like about podcasts and how they kind of use them. Is it background noise? Is it something there to help you focus on something else? Are you actually trying to focus on the podcasts? Or do you just need to be at conversations that are lighthearted and somewhat amusing that you don't really have to pay that much attention to?
I think so I'll throw in my 2 cents, but definitely viewers, listeners, please, we'd like to leave your comments. We'd kind of be interested in hearing. Or if you're a part of our email list, go ahead and hit reply and let us know. But the reason I do it primarily is awareness. So I just kind of want to be aware. It lets me keep more aware of what's going on. And I really don't listen to hardly any that are programming related. They are health and fitness. They are financial podcasts, so it's just keeping an awareness of what's going on in the economy, health viewpoints, you know, those are the kinds of things that I listen to. I know another big area of podcast listening is for entertainment purposes, like true crime episodes or fictional things that people set up,
Mm-hmm.
have podcasts about is another thing. Um, but for me, it's just kind of awareness. That's another way to keep up to date what's going on. And because with that, I can't, if it's something I'm going to need to take notes, I'm not going to listen to a podcast type thing. I'm going to watch the YouTube video because, have my pen and paper handy or have my keyboard right there to be able to type something down. So if I'm actually trying to really learn something, so again, not from an awareness standpoint, then I usually choose a video format. But
So
that's me.
so for you, podcast is more like headline scanning
Sure.
than
But they go
really deep
they go
learning.
deep onto well, they go deep
Shh.
on topics. But it's not
Well,
something that is
true.
relevant. Yeah, they go deep on topics, but it's not something that I have to, oh, I got to remember this because this is a new great feature I got to use in Postgres, or I got to start doing this new method in Ruby or something like.
Yeah,
It's it's more just,
I can
oh, I got to
understand
take
it in
it.
the background. I don't have to
Yeah.
study it or.
It's like, oh, this person used to eat a ketogenic diet and now they've kind of changed what they're eating. They're incorporating, fruit or something. So I'm like, oh, so it's just kind of like hearing that and hearing the benefits he received from that. I'm like, maybe I don't think about doing. So it's
Mm-hmm.
that type of a thing. So it's still, I'm still learning, but it's, not my job depends on it learning.
Right. Yeah.
So
So, and I would really appreciate any comments on that because I'm interested in kind of the psychology between those two things. Why someone would do one or the other in certain situations, what they get out of them. And one of the big reasons I'm interested in that psychology is because I think it helps us deliver a better show and better content for you if we understand what it is you're looking for and how we help you in that facet. So I am genuinely interested to learn the kind of the psychology of your views on how you use podcasts and how you use YouTube. In in the context of learning in development information. Since we're a development focused channel, what what stuff do you use both? Do you only use one or the other? When you use both, which kinds of topics do you prefer on one over the other? Really, really interested in that. Um, so yeah, if you have any thoughts or comments on that, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to see it. So any of the things that you saw that really stuck out to you reviewing the last 100 episodes, other than it's been a lot of fun?
um so I was just part of me was looking over the episodes. I wonder if titles are more important for the podcasts than YouTube. Um,
Hmm.
because I know like you can see what the episode is about. Would people choose to ignore a podcast episode or do they just listen to them all? I don't know. I mean, titles are important for YouTube videos as well.
Yeah, I know there's a whole thing. Like if you look at like TubeBuddy and other SEO type things, they spend a lot of time talking about titles and how they should be formatted and what words should be capitalized and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, they tend to be important. But you're right, and I wouldn't have even an opinion on this because since I don't use podcasts, I never look at the titles of podcasts, so I have no idea. Interesting. I guess heavy podcast users, do you look at titles? Do you really care about that, or is it just,
Or
hey,
how
this is
often
the
do you
next?
skip? How often do you skip one? Because like I'm a I don't know, completionist, I guess, or whatever. If I'm subscribed to something, either I'm all in, or I'm in for a little bit and then I fall all the way off. I'm either on the wagon or off. I rarely pick and choose something because I'm like, once I'm on the wagon, I kind of completionist and I kind of do all the episodes. But are other people, do you kind of like, oh, this one sounds interesting. I'll listen to this one. And you look at another title, you're like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to know.
Yeah, it would.
Or even
So,
for YouTube, like, do you pick and choose what episodes of ours you watch based upon what we're talking about?
yeah, it would be interesting to kind of know. I mean, we can look at numbers and stuff, but it's more informative for the audience to just tell us what they think and how they use it and what's beneficial to them. Because I am interested in delivering something that's beneficial. I mean, I have fun doing this most of the time, but it's there are days, but that rarely has anything to do with the show. It more has to do with what else is going on in life. And
Yeah,
God, I
too
don't
much
feel
other
like
stuff
doing
going
this
on. Yeah.
today. Um. So, but I am interested in understanding that. Um. And one of the big reasons is, a couple final thoughts here. Over the 100 episodes, the 2 years we've been doing this, my absolute favorite thing about this show, the number one reason I'm glad I started this, is because I have met so many awesome people doing this show. And it's developed some friendships. It's developed a lot of knowledge. It's developed a refreshing of my desire to be a developer. But all that has to do with the people I've met through it. The guests we've had on, the people I've talked to through Discord and stuff, and the just all the different viewpoints, the different ideas, the the other groups I've been able to get involved in because of that. So that's been the number one thing for me, is just getting to talk to people. And I'm really thankful for that. So
Yeah.
thank you, audience, for being here, for getting to know us, for letting us get to know you. I hope we get to continue to do that.
Yeah. Every time we bring a guest on, I definitely learn something. So it keeps expanding my horizons.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did want to mention one thing
Yep.
in that so we, podcasts, you can leave reviews. So I did want to read one of the reviews we received. I don't know if
Awesome.
it's the only one, but it's a good one, so I'll read it. So this is from, I guess it's A Sobering or something, but it says an invaluable resource for software developers everywhere. No matter the subject, you're guaranteed to gain something with every episode. Can't recommend the Rubber Duck Dev Show enough. So thank you very much.
Yay! We win.
It's awesome.
Thank you. Uh, we really appreciate that. That's a very good pat on the back and makes us want to keep doing this kind of stuff when we get that kind of feedback. So, we want to be helpful. We want to meet more of you. We want to talk to you. So, please reach out to us. You can reach me on Twitter, X, whatever the hell it's called now. You can reach out to us, Rubber Duck Dev Show at gmail.com. You can come to rubberduckdevshow.com and sign up for the newsletter, or you can leave comments and talk to us through YouTube. We are happy to talk to people. I love to talk to people. So if you're out there and you're a dev, I want to get to know you like as a person. So reach out to us, please, and talk to us, and let's have a conversation, because I love it. So we appreciate you all that have been hanging around, listening for the past however long you've been here. I know some of you have been around for the 2 years. Um,
Thank
so
you.
we appreciate that. I'm looking forward to another 100 episodes, and hopefully we can make that work, grow it out, and do even more fun stuff. We are working on some tweaking to formats and things, and we'll be making some new things. I've had to back off a little bit the past few weeks because I've been crazy busy at work, so I've had to drop my coding with Chris for a little bit, put it on hiatus and things. But we are still working on this, and uh, you know, plan to keep going for as long as we hold out, I suppose. but um, but we do appreciate you, and we do appreciate the opportunity to do this. So looking back on 100 episodes, it's been a really, really fun thing to do, and I'm really feel blessed to have been here this long, and looking forward to more of it.
Yes. Thank you.
So we will see you guys next week with show 101. I'm not sure what the topic is going to be. As I said, Drew Bragg is going to be coming to join us in the next couple of weeks, but I don't know. I don't
Oh,
think
not
we
next
can.
week. Okay.
I don't think next week. I think it's going to be the week after, but I'm still trying to finalize some scheduling with him.
I guess it's mystery topic time.
Yeah, so next week, mystery topic. You guys can look forward to that, but that'll harken back to the early days of the show where we never knew what the hell was going on. So now we at least pretend like we know what's going on most of the time, which is good. But we'll be back with a mystery topic next week. Thanks again for being here. Please leave comments in the comments section. We wanna have a conversation with you, and I want to understand how you listen to and watch the show and what your opinions are. So we will see you next week, and until then, happy programming.
Happy programming.